Okay, well, here we are for our April book club. It always jacks with my head.
It's not
And our book was When the Body Says No
has
by Dr.
200
Gabor
covers.
Mate. There's 3 different covers, right? I had the one with the leaf on it.
Did you get the cover of it, or?
Well, it was Audible, but
Oh, okay.
that
Yeah.
was the picture of the Audible.
At this point, I was Easter egging, like, which one am I going to get? So,
Yay. Hopefully they all read the same.
I think so.
So, very similar in vein with van der Kolk's How the Body Keeps Score, etc. But this was definitely much more of a medical model, right? So what did y'all think of it?
I really liked it. I felt like, because I've tried reading in the Body Keeps the Score.
It's a hard read.
It's hard. This one didn't feel that hard.
No.
So I really liked it for that. Like, although it had a lot of medical lingo and was talking about, I still felt like I was understanding what was going on, and not like I needed to go Google things.
Yes.
To like continue reading it. I do think there's a lot of stories in it, which is nice. So it helps you conceptualize what he's talking about.
Yes.
Well,
and that's how he did all of his research, right? It's all qualitative research. I was really surprised at how many different fields of medicine that he was in, right? He was in palliative care, so end of life care. He was a primary doctor. Sounds like he was kind of like your all around family doctor, pediatrician, obstetrician, that kind of
gamut.
thing. Yeah. So it was very interesting as he was gaining this information. He happened to know a lot of these individuals through his practice at some point in time, and circled back around to do these interviews to collect the data. So I found that was really interesting. It's not the norm.
Yeah, I really like how it was like kind of sandwiched. So it was talking like medical stuff, and then it had the story. And so for me, that helped to conceptualize a lot, because when I was reading the medical, at first I was like, I hope it's not like this the whole time. But then, it was a great read. As always, I have a lot of sticky notes. But so many good stories. It's caused me to be very curious just about like illness. A friend of mine actually yesterday was telling me that her friend just had to have emergency thyroid surgery because they just found out she had cancer. And so I immediately was like, I wonder what her childhood was like. And then she told me her mom had a different illness, and I was like, that's just what I read.
Yeah,
absolutely. I have. It seems this is all anecdotal. I have not done research, but as they talk about different cancers, like reproductive cancers, here is they have the same type childhood, right? And so that's where adverse childhood experiences come from. The ACE comes from, and it's why we use it as one of our primary assessors in the beginning, because we know the more ACEs you have, the greater risk you're going to have for mental health problems and physical health problems, right? And so this is kind of, Dr. Mate pulls it together to say, hey, if you had, he's finding a commonality with, let's say, ALS. These individuals with ALS seem to all have a very similar upbringing. So does it cause it? I don't know, but are there links that are really fascinating and ironic? Absolutely, right? I'll give you an example. He talks very briefly about Epstein-Barr virus. Okay, well, Epstein-Barr virus is the virus that causes mononucleosis.
Okay. Which he talked about that one.
But if you are told that you had Epstein-Barr virus, that is worse than mononucleosis. Okay, so lots of kids get mono, whatever. but not a lot of people are diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus. Okay. He talks about how typically, if someone is, they had a stern father, they reached a point of academic pressure, and the father had high expectations. Well, I was actually diagnosed with Epstein-Barr virus when I was in 7th grade. As he was talking about this, I'm like, oh my gosh. I was a 7th grader that was put into algebra, which is not normal. They normally put 9th graders in algebra, but they had all of us take this test, and I had scored really, really high. And so there was a handful of us that they had put into algebra as 7th graders. Well, I don't remember that being hard. What I do remember being hard was my dad and the fact that he was literally a mathematician. His overbearingness for me to perform where other siblings had not. And he was very proud of the fact that I was in algebra as a 7th grader.
Yeah.
And no matter what I did, it was never good enough. Well, you could have gotten a, right? And I remember that pressure. And then I remember getting sick, starting to get really, really sick in October. And it was downhill from there. And I was so sick that I was out of school until August of the next year, right? And I had a homebound teacher. And that sucked because my homebound teacher did not know algebra. And she could not teach me algebra. So it made it worse because then my dad is trying to teach me the whole curriculum.
And he's
very
the one
traumatic.
who's like putting pressure.
Yeah.
So I don't want you teaching me algebra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So it was just very ironic that was pretty much exactly what happened to me. My cousin also got sick that same year, and I have not yet had an opportunity, but I was going to call her and go, wait a minute. I do know it was her junior year, and junior years are notoriously the hardest year. Her mom was an English teacher, but I don't think her mom pushed her the way her dad did. Her dad was very, very similar personality to my dad. So, who knows? Right?
And
Because lots of people get mono, and it's no big deal. They're down for a week, and they're back at school or work or whatever, but not almost an entire, it was 9 months.
Wow.
And I mean, I was sleeping like 20 hours a day for months and months and months.
I remember you briefly talking about that a little bit ago. Yeah.
And that's like such a great segue to be able to talk to parents about like expectations and the pressure
Of like
and what
constantly.
it does to us, because
Yeah.
our body does tell us no when it's had enough.
Absolutely, right? Shutting down now. I use that example with people with extreme anxiety, and they have a fear of passing out, and I'm like, well, if you're not listening to your body's talking to you long before you started having anxiety. You didn't listen, right? Maybe you're getting headaches. Maybe you had gastro issues. Maybe you got the heat creep up your neck. You're losing hair. It's telling you something, and you're not listening to it, right? So it just compounds and compounds and compounds, and if you continue to not listen to it, it is going to scream and send up all the red flags. And a lot of time with anxiety individuals, your body will just faint, just pass out. Like, you're not taking care of me? Fine, powering down, right? So hands down, for sure.
Yeah, so this book really made me like look. I don't know. Me and Cece would kind of talk about it, but I'd be like I'm afraid to like. Am I acknowledging my feelings? What's going on? I don't want to like be suppressing. And I think the last few chapters for myself made me think. Because recently I feel physically stressed, but like my Oura Ring's not saying I'm stressed. but I have tension in my shoulders and things like that, right? And so I'm like reading this and I'm like, do I actually know how to like, do I know what the feeling is that I'm feeling, right?
Sure.
And am I actually acknowledging it, right? Because I came from a background where I had a parent who drank a lot, right? And like was kind of a latchkey kid because my other parent had to work and things like that. And my parent who drank a lot also was very volatile, right? And so I'm like, this is making a lot of sense. Also, I don't know how to ask for help, and I don't know how to know when I need to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
So it was just like in hearing like the last bit of the book, I was like, that's very interesting. Now I need to address this, like what's going on.
Yeah, and now I'm going to throw something at you that makes it all convoluted. Not all stress is bad stress, right? There are things that your Oura ring will definitely tell you. I'm out with my girlfriends and, you know, we're laughing and having a good time. My body totally registers as stressed.
No, same.
Which I think is hilarious because I'm not, but I'm just, I'm passionate and I'm excited and I'm talking and I'm, right? And that's how it registers. But the other thing is that anxiety, a certain amount of stress is helpful. A certain amount of anxiety is helpful. And so we shouldn't demonize stress, anxiety, because A, as y'all have heard me say a lot, that anxiety kept you in the gene pool, right? You're still here because you realized that was a tiger, not a tree branch. Got it, right? But it also strengthens us, right? I was a latchkey kid too. That definitely did not cause me stress, right? I actually really enjoyed it. But it could cause mass stress and some, you know, another personality, another character to feel abandoned, right? And that would play negatively on your health.
Yeah.
So I throw that out there, cautionary, like, because too many people latch on to, oh, stress is bad.
Yeah.
Right? The kids hear the language. One of my besties and I talked about this a lot, that kids are using language. I'm so stressed out, you know, I'm too stressed, you know, this is stressing me, because they hear the adults using it, and they don't even know what really they're saying, and if that's actually true statement or not, right? So we have to be careful around our kids, because they pick up all sorts of stuff.
With that too, I think I thought it was really cool to see, like, challenging yourself to think like negatively, when it was talking about like how it allows us to look at ourselves as we really are, and that it helps us to understand what the conditions were in our lives. So it's not necessarily like a bad thing. Negative gets a really bad connotation a lot of times, but it doesn't have to be that way.
No, absolutely not. I tell my clients, if we're gonna go and highlight all the negative things that are happening, that's fine, or potentially could happen, that's fine. It's reality. But now we have to talk about all the positive things that could happen, right? You gotta be full spectrum and not focus on just one or just the other.
Yeah, I appreciated that too, because in this, like, as being a therapist and learning like what I do and don't like about like the self-help culture, right? As I continue to grow as a therapist, it's like a lot of the times I'll tell my clients, I hate affirmations. I think that it's so dumb, because we also need to acknowledge what the truth is, right? Not just tell ourselves things. And so with reading this and then him talking about like negative talk and like that being something, we do need to acknowledge what the negative things are, right? And not have the toxic positivity, because you're not actually acknowledging anything, you're just like suppressing it.
Living on a facade.
And I think some of the affirmations stuff, to your point, can be like, you know, I am beautiful and I am strong and all this kind of stuff, where I think it needs to be a little bit more focused. Right? Like, this is hard. I recognize this is hard, but I've done hard things before and I can do this as well.
Yeah.
And using that as your affirmation rather than your fluffy
Cheesy,
Stuff that
Hallmark
has
card.
right,
no-
where I want to
Yeah.
throat punch you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it has
Right.
no foundation of
No.
anything.
Yeah.
Right.
Like how's your brain's not dumb? It's not going to believe this dumb stuff, right? Like
Yeah, it's kind of like just more looking at what our reality is
Be real.
and acknowledging all of it.
yeah.
Sure. Absolutely. I thought that was really unique about the ALS, that so many of them are super positive and, you know, laugh about it and find humor in it, and they just can't see the negative part.
That was super interesting.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Right.
And then like how you train yourself to not know what reality is from like a story, and he mentions Ronald Reagan, right? I thought that I never knew any of that
I
stuff,
didn't either.
and I was like, wow, that's interesting. Like he couldn't even tell from a movie from reality, right? Because the movie was depicting a world that he was actually in, so he confused it. I was like, that's crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But I can say that ALS thing, anecdotally, that is 100% what I have come across.
That's crazy.
And some of the cancers, I can't remember which ones now, but I was thinking back in with clients and just relatives that I've known, hands down, it aligned with the personality and the behavior and what they experienced in their childhood. That's just weird. Weird.
Something I really like the order, like we have been reading these books in, because I feel like this was so good to read after Are You Mad at Me? Because I was reading this, I was like, fawning.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I
And
was-
it's just like how it's so intergenerational, or whatever the word is, but like how, okay, we are looking at our childhood, but now we need to look at your parents' childhood, and now let's look at your parents' childhood. Because it's all just so interconnected.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
right.
so
I mean,
interesting.
you go into the, I think he mentions it in this one too, about, you know, Holocaust survivors that literally their DNA was changed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And if I remember correctly, the number is 8. For that to change, it takes 8 generations for that to be essentially fixed, right? But they're more reactive to stressors because of that, and it's a survival mechanism, right?
I think the more we have read these books, and like you were saying, they all connect in some shape or form. And like, so I'm like, okay, what's the next one gonna be, and how is this gonna apply?
How do we know that? Like, y'all, we just picked them.
We didn't
Right?
think like, oh, this one
We were
goes
like,
with
oh,
this one.
Sounds like, well, this one's, well, I mean, I think we kind of did, like we knew the
Like
gist
around the
about,
year and
what
stuff
they
like
were
that.
about, but not like purposefully.
Yeah,
like,
so it's
in
been
depth.
super interesting.
Yeah.
But what it's further telling me is like, one, to take accountability.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And 2, he mentions it in the book about like carrying resentment, right?
Resentment is the suicide of the soul.
Yeah, and how we want to blame all the bad people in our lives for like our lives, right? And how they were, and not take accountability of the fact that like that was us responding to like a stressor, but also separating ourselves and going that that's not personal.
Right.
They had their own stressor, and it doesn't absolve them of like accountability either, but it absolves you from the resentment that you're carrying towards someone who like that's just
it goes
what
back
they
to
did.
we're all just trying to survive and make it day to day. You know, the illusion of transparency. The vast majority of us are not setting out to hurt our matrix bumping into somebody else's matrix.
Yeah.
Right. There's no intentionality of being able to live our lives with, you know, a view of benevolence, right? That people are out to do good. They are trying to generally do good in their life and help their children and help their spouses and their friends and their family to also benefit from life, right? It's a different mind shift,
Yeah.
right?
And how can we do better than what we had?
Absolutely. It's always, how am I better, right? And like with Gottman, they talk about being good enough, right? The marriage being good enough. But they also talk about bitterness, and bitterness is, resentment and bitterness are the keys to destroy your marriage. Once you start letting bitterness grow, it then grows into resentment. And once resentment starts, it's really hard to save the marriage.
Yeah.
Really hard. And this, if you are holding resentment and you're not ever releasing that, well then,
And you're not making choices based on what caused the resentment, right? It's like you're just gonna continue to resent the person when you could decide to maybe end your relationship or work on your relationship, meaning I'm letting this go. That doesn't mean anybody's off the hook,
Right.
but we're moving forward, right? So
Right.
it's just so interesting.
It's very interesting. Very interesting. And to know that this was written 20 years ago. So
Crazy. I was like,
yeah,
you would have thought he wrote it yesterday.
literally.
I'm sure there's updated studies and stuff like that, but it all definitely still applies. And it's so interesting. It makes me look at, I think, other people, like you're saying, other people in my life, and maybe what they've gone through that nobody
knows about.
I actually was talking to my mom about this yesterday, and I was like, because my grandma has dementia, and I was like, did anyone ask her? I don't think anyone's ever asked her how she felt. And like, we can't ask her now, right? And like, not to get, super sad or anything, but like, it's just wild to think about. And like, my grandpa wasn't a very nice man, right? And abusive, and like, she did get away, but somehow found her way back to that situation. And I think that's just based on the time that they grew up in. But it's like, it's not a shock that she is where she is.
Yeah.
Right now, like, understanding just biology more and like what's going on with their bodies. It's crazy.
It makes me wish I had this knowledge, like,
Yeah, when I was
way
like
earlier.
5. Like, why wasn't I reading this at 5 years old?
Literally.
Like,
but again, the great thing about it is it's not like we're all lost causes, right?
right.
It's that we're taking the time to pick back through that stuff that needs to be picked through and processed and released, and relationships dissolved that don't need to be in existence anymore, and interacting in a different way moving forward, right? So, I mean, y'all are certainly younger than me, so
You couldn't tell. Your skincare routine is great.
thank you.
It is.
I like it, but like I said, it's not a lost cause.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, I think I to the other end of the spectrum, I think about my grandmother, right? She's going to be 104 this year, and talked to her on Sunday, and she's like, "You are getting this." I think I heard something about you graduating this year. We are going to graduate this year, right? You said I just needed to hold on. Until then, I said, I'm trying, because that would just make her ecstatic. My cousin just got her master's yesterday. And so for her to have all of her girls, her daughters, or her granddaughters and her great-granddaughters, to have a degree would just make her ecstatic. But I think about like how she got to be that old without anything. Y'all, she's not ever had health issues.
I feel like the way you talk about your grandma, though, is like, you're going to know what she's got going on in there.
That's what I'm saying. And that's exactly it, right? I mean, with all of her daughters, I think it got better as she had them. They, from top to bottom, the most vocal is here, then here, then here. Right? So, but yeah, they're very vocal. They're all very, extremely nurturing and helpful and all of it. But they're very verbal. They're going to tell you if they don't like something. They also don't have a problem with you not like changing your ways because of it, right? They're just letting you know, like, hey, I think that's going to be a problem, or I didn't like when you did this, and then on down the road,
open and
right?
honest.
They're also very, all of them are very faith-based. My grandmother, immensely, and she says all the time, I gave it up. I gave it to him. We prayed last night. He's got it. And I'm like, if you think so. And she goes, oh, no, baby. I know so. All right.
I've noticed that too, at least with my faith, right? Like, planning a wedding is not easy. And I've definitely doing that and like giving it to God has been something that I immediately sometimes am like, okay, I'm going to go do my work now, even though I like just cried 5 seconds ago. I feel fine. It's fine. Right. And I think that's helpful, but I think it's that radical acceptance.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely. People have been doing it long before they, became a theory skill.
Which I think is interesting, right? Because there's radical acceptance, but then there's like toxic positivity. And it's like
balance.
Yeah.
It's all about balance.
But I think radical acceptance doesn't try to deny what's happened.
It's the reality.
Right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It is.
It's just going. It's out of my control. So
it is hands down out of my control, and we're moving on.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Absolutely. So we just have to keep
on keeping
on, and assisting our clients and doing the same.
Right. So we hear that? No more fake it till you make it.
No, that is that is a skill too, right? That's it. That's a DBT thing, right? Fake it till you make it. Acting as if. I'm sorry, they call it acting as if, but it is fake it till you make it. But that is learning how to push yourself through that
the hard
anxiety
stuff.
and that stressor, right? To understand that you can do it. No, you didn't like it and it was uncomfortable, but you can absolutely do it. But again, it's a fine line when that's appropriate and when that's not.
Speaking of you can do it, I thought it was interesting that he mentions, I can't remember what chapter it is now, but like those like individuals who have experienced sexual trauma having a lower capacity for pain. I think that's what he said. Am I remembering that?
I'm not remembering that, but I do know that
I remember something about sexual assault in correlation to eating disorders.
Yes.
He did mention pain though, and like people's pain thresholds. I remember reading that.
I know that is definitely they've already connected that to genetics. There are literally certain genes that you have or you don't have that makes you more susceptible or less susceptible to pain. Like you can have a high pain tolerance or a low pain tolerance based on your genetic makeup.
I think he talked about it when he was talking about IBS.
He definitely talked about childhood trauma with IBS.
Yeah.
And,
so maybe it was just childhood trauma, like generally, not.
Yeah. Instability and childhood trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super interesting.
So yeah, for sure.
I thought it was too. And then I thought it was interesting that like people can get diagnosed with IBS and not have IBS or even really that many IBS symptoms. And I was like, that's weird.
Because it's a syndrome. It's just a cluster of symptoms. And gastrodocs don't know what to do with it.
Yeah, I remember being younger in like middle school, high school, my stomach hurt all the time. Even before like my eating disorder like manifested, like I just had very bad stomach pains all the time. I was always nauseous, and the doctors were just like, it's anxiety, it's anxiety, it's anxiety. I had tests done, nothing. They gave me stuff for lactose intolerant, nothing. So maybe it was anxiety, maybe not.
I would say, knowing you, Cece, yes, it was.
Yeah.
And I did something similar, right? I mean, we've talked about this before, I think, in here, but I didn't understand. I had a upset stomach. My stomach hurt, was vomiting, whatever, and it was always aligned with public speaking when I had to we had to stand in front of the class and speak, right? So I got smart and I figured out a way around that. But my youngest did the same thing. He did it 2 Mondays in a row, starting 6th grade football. And the first one, I was like, okay, I brought him home. He's not feeling well. Realized, by 10 o'clock he was feeling much better. Then wasn't a problem the rest of the week. The next Monday he did it again, and I was like, nope. I pulled myself into the parking lot. I got out of the car and I crawled into the back seat, and I loved on him and said a prayer. Right? So then he was fine. But so but where does that take us for?
So next month we're doing Why Has Nobody Told Me This Before? Is that what you're asking?
Yep.
By
So that's
Dr.
May.
Julie Smith. It's a really pretty cover.
It is
and
pretty.
it is about, it seems to be a mental health toolbox. Just the chapters look like it's
From what I
based
remember,
on different things like fear, grief, anxiety, the difference between stress and anxiety.
Okay.
So
So maybe this is like an appropriate role.
yeah, I think from what I remember when we were looking into it, it was talking about kind of like what nobody told her about therapy or something like that.
Yeah, the little thing on the back, it says the tools in this book are mostly taught in therapy, but they're not therapy skills, they're life skills, tools that can help every single one of us to navigate difficult times and to flourish.
Okay.
We'll see.
Well, that's May.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's like a 7+ hour read.
Yeah, it's
Way
300
smaller
something
than
pages,
this
but but it's like formatted differently, and there's a bunch of pictures and stuff, so it's not like
pictures.
bad. Like yeah,
There's
picture book.
There's pictures.
So, all right. Well,
Alrighty.
until the end of May.
next time.
Until next time.